Three homages.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Reno Buddhist Center. Thank you for braving the snowy roads to make it here this morning, and thank you for others for tuning in on our live stream, as always. We are very happy to see new faces this morning and welcome you all. So we begin our service with chanting our Shoshinge, which is a book located in the seat back pocket in front of you. It's a traditional Japanese Jodo Shinshu chant written by our lineage founder Shinran Shonin in the 13th century. And so this book is traditional. We chant from right to left in vertical columns. So first page, page number 1. We chant it all the way through to at least page number 30, sometimes more. So this chant comprises a lineage of all the teachers that contributed to the Pure Land Buddhist way of thought and practice. And it is also in homage to Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite wisdom and compassion. It's the cosmic Buddha, the timeless time Buddha. So we offer incense and gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion that supports us all throughout all of our days and beyond. So please offer incense with us this morning. And if you're at home, please, if you have a home altar, offer incense or water or food or some kind of offering is good. And we have 2 other altars in our hondo. We have the Kannon altar, the altar of compassion. You can light a candle there for offering some more compassion to yourself or to send it on to another loved one. Or if someone has transitioned recently, you can write their name on the tablet there. And here's our medicine Buddha altar. If you need a little bit of extra healing energy or to send it forward to someone you're thinking about, you can offer some incense at that altar. So all of this is to generate very positive energy and to kind of lift us up out of the everyday world and operate a little bit more in the spiritual realm. So it's very good. Thank you so much. Shoshinge. Kimyo Muryo Junyorai Namu Fukashigi Ko Hozo Bosai Niji Zai Seiji Zai Obu Sho Token Shobu Jodoin Kokudo Ninden Shizen Maku Konryu Mujo Shushogan Toho Keiu Daiguze Okoshi Yuishi Shoju Juse Myosho Monji Po Uho Muryo Muhenko Muge Mutai Ko Enno Shoujo Kangi Chieko Fudan Ranshi Mushoko Chonichi ga Kosho Jinsei Isai Gunjo Mukosho Hongam Yogo Shoujogo Shishin Shingyo Gannin Joto Gakusho Dai Neihan Ishi Metdo Ganjoju Nyorai Shoi Koshusei Yuisei Mida Hongon Kai Gojoku Akuji Gunjo Kai Oshin Nyorai Ryojitgon Noho Ichinen Kiai Shin Fudan Bon no Tokune Han Monsho Gyaku Hosai Nu Nyoshu Shinyu Kai Chimi Seishu Shinko Joshogo Ino Suiha Mumyo An Tonnai Shinzo Shiunmu Jofu Shinji Shinjin Ten Hinyoni Kofu Unmu Unmu Shige Myomuan Gyakushin Kenkyo Daikyo Ki Sokuo Chose Go Akushu Isai Zen Makubon Bunin Monshin Yorai Guzegan Bungon Kodai Shogeisha Zenin Yo Fundarike Midabu Hongan Nenbu Jaken Kyoman Akushujo Shingyo Juji Jinni Nan Nanshu Shinan Mukashi Indo Saiten Shironge Chukaji Chiki Shikoso Kendai Shoko Se Shoi Myonyorai Honze Oki Shaka Nyorai Ryogasen Ishu Gomyo Nanten Jiku Ryuju Daiji Shuto Se Shitno Zai Ha Umu Ken Sensei Daijo Mujo Ho Shokan Giji Shoan Raku Kenji Nangyo Roku Shingyo Igyo Shidoraku Okunen Midabu Hongan Jinen Soku Jinyu Hitjo Yui no Josho Nyorai Go Oho Daihi Guze On Tenjin Bosa Zoron Se Kimyo Muge Konyorai Eishu Tara Kenshinji
高専王朝大聖願高遊本願力栄光移動群上小維新非入空独大崩壊筆脈入大永収集特使連芸造成会即昇進用法昇進有望の人間人図入所自由自由芸本自動乱両天使上皇乱消防災三蔵ルシ十条教盆書宣教気楽法天神菩薩論中芸報道因果見世願方言栄光有他力少女死因唯新人枠前本部新人法承知承持即内藩医師無料公明道小雨修上回復系同社継承道南省唯名浄土活入万全自力変言中円満特語感染症三風三神慶音言増魔法明道非因異生増悪地偶税思安妖怪称妙化全道独名武将医法愛上三両逆悪公明明語計二年海ぬ本願大地会行者小樹金剛心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即小法小四上楽現心公開一大教返帰安養加二祭先祖出身反戦人法慶二道小弁流極重悪人唯勝部大薬剤非正集中煩悩証言追復権大非無権上昇が本次元空明仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現来生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位昇し即入弱上無意楽一心人の入空兄弟自主使徒上妻無変極辱悪同族自主愚道心唯過信し高祖聖ナムアミダムナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムミダジョブのこの方は今に自己を ええりほしんのこうりいえぬきわもなあくせのもみょうを照らすなり。こ何にしくどきゅ平等聖祭の菩提心お嬢
We would like to welcome the children to go to Dharma School with Reverend Shelley and Aaron. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you.
Sudatta Sutra, Meeting Sudatta. Thus I've heard, in the first years of Buddha's teaching, he was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove at the squirrel sanctuary. At that time, a wealthy man from Savatthi named Sudatta had come to Rajagaha to visit his brother-in-law, a merchant. As Sudatta was walking through the streets of Rajagaha, he saw a group of orange-robed Dharma students walking in single file. He was struck by their serene and dignified bearing, and he felt a strong desire to learn more about their teachings. Sudatta went to his brother-in-law's and asked him about the men. His brother-in-law told him that they were followers of the Buddha, an enlightened teacher who was known for his wisdom and compassion. Sudatta was intrigued, and he asked his brother-in-law to to arrange a meeting with the Buddha. His brother-in-law agreed, and the next day, Sudatta went to the bamboo grove to meet the Buddha. When Sudatta arrived, he bowed to the Buddhas and sat to one side. The Buddha greeted him warmly. Sudatta said, "Venerable Sir, I have heard that you are a great teacher who can help people overcome their suffering. I am a wealthy merchant, but I feel that something is missing in my life. I'm plagued by desires and sadness, and I long for a deeper sense of peace and contentment." The Buddha listened to Sudatta's words with compassion, and he knew that he could help him. The Buddha smiled and asked Sudatta if he knew the secret to happiness. Sudatta replied that he did not. The Buddha said it was generosity. Sudatta was puzzled. The teacher asked Sudatta if he had any coins, and Sudatta produced a handful. The Buddha took one of the coins and held it up to Sudatta to see. He said, "Sudatta, this coin is a symbol of your attachment and greed, but it can also be a tool for your liberation. Take this coin and transfer it from one hand to the other, over and over again, while reciting the following verse with the thought, 'I shall not be greedy. I shall move a coin from one to another.' Do this practice with mindfulness and concentration, and you will gradually develop a sense of detachment and contentment. Your mind will become more peaceful, and you will feel less driven by your desires and attachments." Sudatta was grateful for the Buddha's teaching, and he took the coin and began to practice as he had been instructed. He transferred the coin from one hand to the other, reciting the verse, and gradually he became absorbed in the practice. When he had practiced this for a few days, he returned to the Buddha and said he did feel a new sense of calm. The Buddha then instructed Sudatta to give the handful of coins away and be generous. Sudatta was more confused. "I cannot. They are my coins. I cannot give them away without receiving goods in return." The Buddha smiled and asked Sudatta and asked again, "Do you know the secret to happiness?" "No. It is letting go of greed. Make a habit of giving. You have made a start by simply taking the coins in this pocket and giving them to your other pocket. Now take these coins and give them to someone in need." Sudatta was hesitant, as he was not used to giving away his wealth so freely. But the Buddha gently urged him, saying that generosity was the first step on the path to enlightenment. Sudatta then remembered a poor family he had seen on the way to the grove, and he went to find them. He gave them the coins and was struck by the joy he felt in his heart as he saw the family's gratitude and relief. As Sudatta returned to the Buddha's presence, he felt a sense of deep peace and contentment that he had never experienced before. A feeling of release spread through his body and mind. His greed and attachment began to dissolve, and he felt a deep sense of contentment and well-being. When he saw the teacher, Sudatta prostrated himself at the Buddha's feet and thanked him for his teaching. The Buddha smiled and said, "Sudatta, you have done well. This practice of letting go is the path to true liberation. May you continue to cultivate mindfulness and concentration, and may you be free from all suffering." The Buddha then explained that the true happiness comes not from material possessions, but from cultivating a heart of compassion and generosity. Sudatta was deeply moved by the Buddha's teachings and decided to become his student. He went on to become one of Buddha's great benefactors, supporting the Sangha and spreading the Dharma throughout his life. He was given the name Anantapindika, one who gives to the unprotected, well known for his generosity and compassion. We will now have few minutes of meditation accompanied by music.
Welcome again to everyone. I hope you can hear me in the back. Can you hear me in the back? Is that okay? Okay. We open our hearts to everyone who comes through this door and comes to this sacred place. We're happy you're here. It was a difficult morning, so the people who have physically come here, they're the hardy ones. That's impressive. And our friends at home who have figured out how to find the YouTube Live link. That's not without difficulty and arduousness as well, so you're welcome as well. So, there's always a lot going on at the temple when we're not shoveling and plowing and shoveling and plowing, but that was just this morning. Last Friday was interesting because it began early in the morning. I presided over a cremation service at Walton's, and then through the day we had normal meetings, and then we had a wonderful founders dinner. So we celebrated Daigon and Alicia Matsunaga as our founders of our temple together, and we had tamales, which I don't know if Daigon ever had tamales, but he would have liked them, I'm sure. Another amazing thing was Saturday yoga has gotten so popular, it started to fill the entire hall downstairs. So that's kind of wonderful to see people come and enjoy Kate's wonderful class. So, and we even started our Shin Buddhism class yesterday, the first of 3 classes. They'll be on Saturday mornings. So there's 2 more classes. It's not too late to come and share that if you're interested in what Shin Buddhism in particular is about. So, well, on to our Dharma message for today. I enjoy the reading so much. I first heard that sutra read in Sri Lanka when I was spending some time in the monastery, and it was very interesting to me, the idea that the person, Anathapindika, the person in the story is about, that his name, I'd read about him before, but I never realized he had a different name, and he became so generous, they renamed him the Great and Generous Benefactor, or the one who gives to those who don't have, or something like that. So, it's just kind of amazing. And the idea that the simple practice of just sort of, just pretending like you're giving somebody something, and then building that, is a fundamental habit forming in a positive sense. So, thinking about life, have you ever noticed that life is less fun when you're not getting what you want? Or how unpleasant it is to be stuck chatting with someone you dislike at a party? Yeah. Or how frustrating the new technology is at work. They tell you it's going to make your life easier, but you don't know how to use it. That's very frustrating. So, in Buddhism, we call these 3 things the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Would it be surprising to hear that these 3 are the real causes of all the suffering there is? Maybe. There are no other causes of dukkha, of suffering in the world. They are the primary obstacles to spiritual growth. The Buddha taught that we can transform these poisons into positive qualities through awareness, understanding, and practice. Now, it's with good reason that we call greed, anger, and ignorance the 3 poisons, and sometimes the 3 fires. Yeah. They are dangerous afflictions. Thoughts and emotions can be very destructive if they are not understood and transformed. What do I mean by greed? It's sort of a broad definition. It refers to our selfishness, misplaced desire, attachment, grasping for happiness, and looking for satisfaction outside ourselves. The wanting feeling that plagues our experience. Anger also has many names. It is the same as hatred, aversion, repulsion toward unpleasant people or situations, even that feeling of dislike for our own unpleasant thoughts is a form of what the Buddha would call anger. And ignorance, that is our dullness, our bewilderment, our disinterest, and misperception, our wrong views of reality. These poisons, greed, anger, and ignorance, are a byproduct of not knowing our true nature. Deep inside, all sentient beings have an awakened heart of pure wisdom and compassion. Inside, we are eternal, joyful, selfless, and pure. But we are unaware. Out of ignorance, poisonous states of mind seed unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. These three are the cause of all suffering and unhappiness that there is. Now, technically, the Buddha taught that these poisons are embedded in our mind habit, in our karmic consciousness. We experience them wrapped into what we call our self. They come from that delusion of self. The unpleasant habit of seeing everything through the eyes of I, me, my. The conceit of I-making. The fictional construct of identity. Everything regular folks experience is influenced, maybe stained is another word, by these three poisons. They are unwholesome roots buried deep inside our mind, burning down there as craving, resentment, and misunderstanding. Please don't be naive. These are real poisons. They are lethal and vastly destructive. They destroy hearts, lives, hopes, and whole civilizations. They drive us, starving and blind, through an endless ocean of births and deaths, this samsara. The Buddha described these defilements as bindings, hindrances, knots, the basic cause of all unwholesome karma and all unskillful actions. Can it get any worse? These three cause every aspect of human suffering. The Buddha teaches about this for a good reason. His message is very positive. It's empowering, even if thinking about greed, anger, and ignorance is kind of a downer. With his help, we are rescued and protected from these poisons. With deep and subtle understanding, by observing what goes on inside of us, we can clearly see and feel the poisons causing our confusion, unhappiness, and suffering. And with Dharma clarity and bright insight, we can choose to let the poisons go, just as Anathapindika did in the sutra. In this way, with the help and guidance of the Buddha, we liberate ourselves. So, let's focus on greed for a minute. I'm not greedy, you're thinking? Now, think about it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were greedy? Don't be shy, shout it out. I was kidding. You can just say it in your mind. Okay. Now, somebody's thinking last week. Somebody said never. I thought that was a funny one. Christmas. Well, that's okay. People get greedy at Christmas. They want the new skis. Yes, okay. The real answer is this morning, or a minute ago. So, pasha, you say. It's a subtle thing. It's all those wantings. As soon as you looked out the window this morning, not wanting to shovel, and saw 8 inches of snow, there's greed in the not wanting to. Maybe that's anger. Anyway. The greed is for wanting a clear morning. You want a clear morning, and then the anger comes because you have to shovel. They're both in there. Got it. Okay. So, greed is a burning desire, an unquenchable thirst. The Buddha's word is tanha, which means thirst. Craving and wanting all different kinds. We want things to provide us with lasting satisfaction. So we feel fulfilled and whole and complete if I just have whatever it is, a new iPhone, whatever it may be. I do not have an iPhone. I'm an Android person, but okay. The poison of greed creates inner hunger so that we always seem to be striving toward but never reaching the unattainable goal. In ignorance, we believe our happiness depends on that thing, on that goal. But once we reach it, whatever it is, we get no lasting peace or satisfaction. It just all starts again. If we get the iPhone, tell me the number. What's the current number? Anyone know? 13. If we get an iPhone 13, then we start thinking, I wonder when the iPhone 14 is coming out. It's just natural. Or somebody, who lives in Silicon Valley gets an iPhone 17. You're like, how'd you get that? I'm a beta tester. Okay. But that's all this kind of weird greed stuff that flows through us. They just start fresh. They start anew, and we look outside ourselves to find the next thing that's going to hopefully make us happy. So, bring satisfaction. It's a pattern of experience. It's a habit of living that we get into. We are all collectors of some kind. We may collect experiences, we may collect relationships and discard them. We might just collect things, but if we just get X, this thing, then we'll be happy. That phrase pops through our head. Even with just a moment of honest and mindful reflection, looking inward reveals how deeply rooted our greed can be. Whether it's the trivial grabbing the last cookie at tea time, which is a kind of greed, or the more dangerous, compulsive, destructive tanha, or thirst. It's all greed. Our want is to fulfill an insatiable inner hunger of the lonely self, a craving. The self has separated itself from everything, and now it's sad and lonely because it's made itself separate. It wants to be whole, to be loved, and to be connected. It affects our personal life, certainly, our work life, and clearly big business and politics are rife with greed almost completely. An endless vicious cycle of binding, suffering, and unhappiness follows in the wake. So that's greed. And what about anger? I had a good example a moment ago about how we looked out the window and we saw that snow and there was some anger in some of you when you saw the snow and knew what that meant. I enjoy plowing the parking lot, so I was a little giddy. Reverend Shelley was actually angry with me for being giddy because she didn't want to go shoveling. So it's interesting how this all flows. It's a matter of reflection, not judging. The symptoms of anger poisoning show up in hating, hostility, dislike, aversion, or ill will, wishing harm or suffering on another. Clearly, we all experience these through our day. They just flash through us. We think of those people in unkind ways. The aversion is this habit of resisting, denying, avoiding whatever that object may be, whether unpleasant feelings, circumstances, or people. The habit reinforces our perception of duality and separation, because when we're repulsed by something, we're separated from it. The self needs separation to exist, and then it gets lonely. But think about it, the self has to have separation, because without them, there is no us. Hatred makes thems. Interestingly, my word processor would not let me write the thems. It just wouldn't let me do it. But I think it's reasonable. We do that all the time. We see those people or them or whatever. Antagonists, maybe not really enemies as much. Anger traps us in another vicious cycle, always finding or creating conflicts, creating these enemies everywhere we go, to exist against, to exist in contrast to. With the imagined presence of the supposed enemies all around us, our mind is a little neurotic about it and often consumed with spinning endless strategies of protection or revenge. This habit of mind operates even within when we dislike uncomfortable thoughts, uncomfortable feelings. We push them away. We say they're bad. We dislike them. Sometimes we hate them. But they're part of us. With anger and aversion, pushing away these feelings like fear or hurt or loneliness, we treat them like an internal enemy. The poison of anger creates conflict all over the world and within ourselves. That was anger. And ignorance. Ignorance is our lack of understanding or wrong view of reality. We are ignorant and we don't want to know. We are also, sometimes this is called delusion, our misperception of the way the world works. Our inability to understand the nature of things exactly as they are, just as they are, free of the distortions of I, me, my. Under the delusion, we are not in harmony with ourselves, others, or with life. We are not living in accord with the Dharma, the truth of how things works, or as Dr. Matsunaga said in the video we watched the other night, he described it as reality as it is. That's what the Dharma talks about. But in ignorance, we're not in line with that. Distorted by the poison of delusion arising from ignorance of our true nature, we do not understand interdependence and impermanence in life. Because of this, we are constantly looking outside of ourselves for happiness and satisfaction, solutions to the problem of living. This outward searching creates even more frustration and anger because of our ignorance. We don't really understand that virtuous, life-affirming actions create happiness and the causes of happiness. We also don't recognize that unwholesome actions create suffering. Just as with the other poisons, ignorance binds us in kind of a vicious cycle of our searching, our dissatisfaction, our misunderstanding creates other problems, and we search for, it goes on and on, rather than finding peace. With this distorted view, it seems like there's no way out. But there is a way out. Through our Shin Buddhist practices, these poisons can be transformed. To transform greed, we give. Dana, selfless giving, is not easy, but it is important. In the sutra, we heard how the great benefactor, Anathapindika, transformed his greed into unbounded generosity by starting small. Give a little bit. Every time you come to the temple, make a little donation. And then, when larger opportunities come, like a capital campaign, grow into that and make a generous donation there too. Greed is all about grasping, so we cultivate letting go and equanimity, and that transforms it. This means observing our thoughts and emotions, and so that we can feel what is behind that grasping for solidity, grasping for connection. We do this through mindfulness meditation and gratitude practices, like simply saying, Namu Amida Butsu. And to transform anger, we develop compassion and loving kindness, cultivating empathy and kindness towards others and ourselves. Once we get good at showing loving kindness to a dear one or maybe to a neutral person, then we can start working on the difficult people. How do we flow loving kindness to all the thems that we created earlier? We can do that. Sure, they are difficult to deal with, but they're just human beings, and they're struggling too, and the ways that they have found to cope are difficult. Okay, we can still love them. We don't have to, validate their bad behavior, but we can still love them. We do this through practices like the metta meditation, loving kindness meditation, or cultivating the 4 immeasurable attitudes. And to transform ignorance, we develop wisdom and insight into the way things really are. This means deeply considering the Dharma and reaching an understanding of the 4 Noble Truths. Build a view of life that accepts that everything is impermanent, everybody suffers from time to time, and that we live in an other power world. That's what non-self really means. We can do this through meditation, study, and contemplation. We do use the word transforming, not eliminating, on purpose. The Buddha did not teach us to eliminate the 3 poisons in the sense of eradicating them completely. He understood that these attitudes are hardwired in us. Instead, the Buddha guided his students to transform the poisons by changing our relationship to them. Learn to read them as signals, changing your response to them when they flare up. Instead of flashing into ill-considered action when anger boils, we can cool it with the cool waters of compassion for us and the other one involved. In this way, we can transform the poisons into kind of trip lines that evoke positive qualities in their place. So, the Buddha taught we can transform the 3 poisons. It is an ongoing process, certainly. It requires diligence and patience. Real effort is needed, but is worth it. By cultivating letting go for greed problems, compassion for anger problems, and wisdom for ignorance problems, we gradually free ourselves from suffering and develop greater peace and happiness in our lives, just like Anathapindika did in the sutra. Most of all, and I will end with this because it's the most important point, most of all, when we cultivate these qualities, we are less likely to inflict troubles on other beings. So, to finish, we will say after me, Amida Buddha's wish for all beings. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Nama loves, Nama loves, Nama loves, Nama loves. Thank you. We usually finish our service with, second to last thing we do is we sing our Reno Buddhist Center theme song. You'll find it in the service book on page 49. If you would stand, Masako will play the piano for us. Home in the Meadow. the last thing on my list is announcements. Most important, we really need your help with this. There are lots of treats downstairs, and I'm concerned that because it's snowy, people will just leave. But please, come downstairs to tea, have some treats, because you know what happens if no one eats the treats. They sit down there in the fridge, and then late at night, when nobody's looking, I sneak down 3 flights of stairs and there are some Oreo donut holes. Isn't that what they're made out of, Will? Made of Oreos somehow? How is that even possible? It's amazing. Anyway, come downstairs to tea, please. For new folks, if you have questions, if you're new to us, come, and there's a newcomer circle. We'll meet in one corner of the room. There's some tables together, and then you can ask questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. Our Shin Buddhism class continues on the 11th, next Saturday, and you'll be welcome at that too. Thank you so much for your kind attention.